Hey everyone, my name is Ryan Hunt and I get to be a pastor here at Light Point. And over this last month, we've been talking about the various organizations that we are partnering with for our Be Rich campaign. And what's really neat about all these organizations is they all exist to change the story of a child. And I just think that's awesome. And I think as a church, that's our mission too. Today, I'm really excited to talk about Next Gen Ministry right here at Light Point. So Next Gen will encompass babies all the way through graduating seniors into early college. So it's a huge span of ministry that we want to steward really well here. And in order to do that, we need to make some hires. We need to hire a youth pastor. We need a budget for student ministry, and that stuff has just never existed here at Light Point so far. And so we're moving into a new season, and we need to make some tweaks to do that. And one of those tweaks is we need to raise some more capital so we can launch that ministry. There's a couple things I wanted to tell you about that may shock you. Following the pandemic, the U.S. Surgeon General issued an advisory for a youth mental health crisis. And as I was reading into these stats, it just broke my heart. Did you know that between the ages of 10 and 24 in the U.S., suicide rates increased by 57%? 57%. Staggering. In 2020, there were over 6,600 suicides in that age range. And it also tells us that among the minorities and all those groups that we know are already vulnerable, it also puts students in rural areas. So our own students would be in that most vulnerable area, right? I'd read that during the crisis, during COVID and through 2021, that most students would say that nobody reached out to them who was a spiritual leader. In fact, what the article says is that 10% of young people experience having a spiritual leader reach out to them to check on them. And again, this is just heartbreaking because right now, maybe you didn't know this, but there are more students with depression and anxiety disorders than ever before. There's more diagnoses, there's more medicine being distributed, and I'm all for the medicine. I think that's the way that God heals us. So I'm your pastor's for that, okay? But it's only solving part of the problem. Our students need to be in healthy spiritual communities. I say this all the time. You'll never regret putting yourself and your family in the middle of a healthy spiritual community. When Jen and I were praying about coming to Light Point, one of the things I did is I looked at Google Maps and I drew a 10-mile circle around our church. And I found out that there's 13 high schools within 10 miles of our doorstep. And that's just high schools. That's not counting middle schools or elementary schools. And as I've talked to some other churches in the area, a lot of churches are struggling with student ministries. You know, once the pandemic hit, it was hard to get students to come back, right? And so the stakes are high here. We have all of these schools filled with thousands of students who don't know God, who don't know that Jesus loves them. As you're praying and as you're asking God, what do you want me to give to this? Maybe also ask Him, are there other ways that I could be involved? And just take a minute, listen to the Lord with that, and let's partner together to love the students in the Scioto County and the surrounding areas the way they need and deserve to be loved.